The storm hit like a wall. Rain hammered the asphalt, turning the empty road into a slick ribbon of silver. Lightning cut through the night sky, illuminating a lone pickup truck winding its way toward the outskirts of the city. Inside, Maya Carter, 38, single mother, gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, rain dripping from her hood. She had driven this road hundreds of times, but tonight something felt wrong, a shiver crawling up her spine. Suddenly, red and blue flashes appeared ahead. She slammed the brakes, tires skidding on wet pavement, and froze. A patrol car lay crumpled against the guardrail, smoke curling from the engine. The driver's door swung open like a broken wing, and there, half on the asphalt, a man in a uniform. Blood soaked his chest, eyes fluttering in and out of consciousness. "Back up, they're not coming," he whispered, voice weak, barely audible over the storm. Maya's instincts screamed at her, "Call 911, stay safe, keep driving." But another part, buried deep, kicked in. She had been someone else before, someone who didn't walk away when lives were on the line. She tore her jacket open, knelt beside him, and pressed her hands hard against the wound. Her fingers were trembling, but her grip was firm. "Stay with me," she said, voice steady. "You're not dying tonight. I've seen worse. You're not leaving me here." The man's eyes opened wider, and she saw pain, fear, resignation, everything she had once seen in war zones overseas. Liam Reyes, 32, rookie cop, rookie in years but veteran in courage. She knew she had to act fast. Rain soaked her hair, plastering it to her forehead, lightning reflecting in the shards of glass around them. Maya cut his seatbelt with the knife she carried, the blade old but sharp. Muscle memory took over. Her hands worked with precision she hadn't needed in years, field dressing the gaping wound. Her mind calculating every second, every movement. Whispered as she worked, trying to keep him conscious. "Talk to me, Liam. You were following the cartel, right? Those men who hit you, how many?" "6, maybe more. They wanted me dead." He coughed, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. "They won't get you," she said, almost to herself. "Not tonight. Not if I can help it." The car's engine hissed, smoke thickening, smell of gasoline stinging her nose. One spark, one careless move, and they'd both be gone. Without thinking, she hauled him onto her shoulder, adrenaline surging, muscles screaming in protest. 1 step, 2 steps, then 30. More, through the rain, through the dark forest, every second a fight against time. Lightning flashed again, illuminating the patrol car's crumpled frame, twisted metal gleaming like a warning. Behind them, the storm's fury raged, but Maya's focus was singular. She imagined her daughter, Ella, 10, bright and fearless in her own way, asking her mother why she sometimes disappeared for days during her military service. This was why. This was the life she had been trained for, the life she had promised herself she'd never abandon. Finally, she reached the road. Her legs quaked, heart hammering, but Liam was alive. She flagged down a passing truck. The driver jumped out, eyes wide at the sight. "Call 911. Now," she shouted, voice cutting through the storm. As paramedics rushed out, she took a step back, drenched, shaking, adrenaline still screaming through her veins. Liam's eyes met hers across the rain-slicked asphalt, and in that moment, no words were needed. He was alive because she had refused to let him go. Maya straightened, looking down at her soaked jacket, her hands red-stained, heart racing. Somewhere deep, a part of her that had lain dormant for years awakened again, the part that never leaves a fallen. And she knew, as the sirens grew louder, that nothing would ever be the same. As the ambulance disappeared into the night, a shadow moved in the forest. Someone had been watching, and they weren't going to let this go. The storm had passed, but Maya Carter didn't feel any calmer. Rain still ran in rivulets down the windows of her small apartment, the night quiet except for the soft hum of the city. Beyond, her jacket, soaked and bloodstained, hung over a chair. Her hands trembled slightly, but her mind wasn't on herself. It was back in the forest, back with the man she had just saved. Her phone buzzed, a number she didn't recognize. She answered cautiously. Maya Carter? A gruff voice asked. This is Captain Stone from County Police. Officer Liam. Reyes, you saved him. We need to talk. She swallowed hard. I did what anyone would do. Captain Stone's voice was calm but insistent. I understand that. But your actions, they weren't ordinary. Field trauma care, tactical extraction. Where did you learn that? Maya's fingers tightened around the phone. She glanced at the worn black bracelet on her wrist, the one she'd carried through deployments she'd hoped never to revisit. The faint letters, never leave a fallen. I used to be someone else, she said quietly. Memories came flooding back. The nights under fire, the screams, the smell of dust and blood. The men and women she had kept alive. And the ones she hadn't. I was a combat medic. Special forces. I left that life years ago. There was silence on the line. Then softly. You carried him half a mile through the rain. You did everything right. Nobody could have done it better. No one could, she whispered. Maya sank onto the couch, eyes fixed on the muted city lights. She thought of Ella curled under a blanket upstairs, oblivious to the storm her mother had walked through tonight. Her daughter's bright, curious eyes, always asking why Maya never talked about her scars, came to mind. She had promised herself she would protect that innocence at all costs. But then a chill ran down her spine. Liam's words, "They're watching," replayed in her head. She hadn't imagined it. Someone had been in the shadows, observing her every move. Someone still was. Her phone buzzed again. This time, Detective Maria Reeves. Maya Carter? We traced the truck. We need to know everything you saw. And your training, your experience. We think it can help us. Maya ran a hand over her wet hair. I'm not getting involved. I'm a mother. I left that life behind. I don't carry weapons anymore. I can't risk. You saved a life, Maria said gently. Lives are still at risk. The cartel that targeted Officer Reyes, they won't stop. And he'll be a target again if we don't act. Maya closed her eyes, pressing her forehead against the cool glass. She remembered holding Ella as a newborn, whispering the promise that she would never let the world hurt her child if she could prevent it. That promise hadn't changed. She hadn't stopped being a soldier. She had only changed her battlefield. Her phone buzzed again, a text, no name, just words. You didn't see us, but we saw you. Don't think this ends tonight. Her breath caught. The shadows in the apartment seemed to stretch, alive. Maya grabbed her tactical bag from under the bed, the one she had thought she'd never need again, and ran a hand over her old medkit. Every tool was still there, sterile, ready. She glanced at Ella's bedroom door. The child slept peacefully, unaware of the danger and the choices her mother had made. Maya kissed her forehead. I'll always be here, she whispered. Then, steeling herself, she stepped back into the darkness of the city. Outside, the streets were quiet. Too quiet. But Maya didn't hesitate. She had seen death up close, felt it claw at her hands. Tonight had reminded her of what she was capable of, and that her fight wasn't over. Somewhere in the shadows, unseen eyes glimmered. They had watched her every move. Tonight, and they were already planning their next strike. Maya drove through the city streets, rain-slicked and deserted. The storm had left puddles that mirrored neon signs flickering in the distance. Her hands tightened around the steering, willed knuckles white, heart still hammering from the forest. She hadn't spoken to Ella. Yet, her daughter was asleep, blissfully unaware of the danger creeping closer to them. The phone buzzed again. No number, just a blank text. You can't hide. We're coming. Maya's stomach twisted. She had thought she left this life behind, but now it was chasing her, pulling her back into shadows she had worked so hard to escape. She stopped at a red light, staring at her reflection in the rain-streaked windshield. She remembered Liam's pale face, the blood soaking his uniform, his pulse fluttering like a trapped bird. She remembered the weight of him on her shoulders, the burn in her arms as she carried him half a mile through the forest, each step a battle against time. That night had awakened something in her she thought she had buried forever, the part of her that didn't leave anyone behind. A flash of headlights in the rearview mirror made her flinch. Another car, black, moving too slowly behind her. She forced herself to stay calm. Her old instincts kicked in. Check the mirrors, maintain distance, keep your route unpredictable. The city might seem safe, but she knew better. Shadows lingered where people didn't look. She drove past the small parks and quiet neighborhoods, eyes sharp for movement. Memories of overseas missions surfaced. Ambushes in narrow alleys, hostiles hiding in the dark, teammates counting on her hands and mind to save them. She had survived then, because she never hesitated. Now it felt different. This wasn't just about her. It was about Ella, about Liam, about the innocents who could be caught in the crossfire. Her phone rang. Detective Maria Reeves again. Maya, listen. Officer Reyes is stable, but the cartel won't stop. We traced some activity. They're organized, trained, dangerous. We need your insight. Maya exhaled slowly. I said no. I'm a mother first. I've left that life behind. Maria's voice softened. And that's exactly why we need you. You know how they think, how they move, how to survive. You saved him tonight, and there's more at stake. Maya clenched her jaw. She remembered Ella's innocent eyes, asking why her mother didn't teach her how to defend herself. The promise she had whispered years ago, I'll protect you, at all costs, echoed louder than her fear. She could ignore this call, turn away, vanish into normal life. But could she live with herself if someone else died because she hesitated? Her heart tightened. She had spent years running from this life, burying the past under routines, normalcy, and quiet days with Ella. But the past had found her. It had found Liam. And now it was demanding her presence. The black car followed closer, moving with an unnatural patience. Maya's pulse accelerated. She ducked into an alley, narrowly avoiding a delivery truck, and vanished from sight for a moment. Shadows swallowed the street. When she re-emerged, the car was gone. But the threat lingered. Maya parked a block from her apartment, careful not to draw attention. She opened the tactical bag under her seat and checked her medkit. Everything was intact. Bandages, clamps, field dressings, a small collection of tools she had hoped never to need again. She ran her fingers over them, each one a reminder of who she had been, and who she still could be when the world demanded it. She finally stepped into the apartment, closing the door behind her. Ella slept peacefully in her room. Maya stood silently, listening to the soft rhythm of her daughter's breathing, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down like never before. She had saved Liam, but the fight was far from over. Shadows were moving, and this time, they were hunting her. Somewhere in the city, eyes watched her apartment, waiting. They knew she was no ordinary mother, and soon Maya would have to prove it. Maya couldn't sleep. The city outside her window was quiet, too quiet. Every creak of the old apartment, every hum of the streetlights felt amplified, like the world was holding its breath. Her eyes were fixed on the ceiling, mind replaying the forest, Liam's blood-soaked uniform, the weight of him on her shoulders. She had carried him out of the wreckage, stitched him up under impossible circumstances, and saved his life. But the message she had received earlier, "You didn't see us, but we saw you," echoed in her mind. The shadows were still there. A sudden noise from the fire escape outside snapped her attention to the window. She froze, listening. Footsteps, slow, deliberate. Her pulse quickened. Years of training, the reflexes she thought she had buried, kicked in immediately. She moved silently to the kitchen, grabbed a small tactical flashlight and a collapsible baton from the drawer, and waited. The door rattled slightly. Someone was trying the handle. Maya's breath slowed, mind sharp. She had survived ambushes in deserts, jungles, and war-torn cities. She had learned how to stay calm when death pressed close. Her daughter slept upstairs, unaware, innocent, and she would do anything to protect that life. A shadow moved outside. She aimed the flashlight. Two figures froze, half hidden in the darkness. One of them raised a gun, a warning, not a shot. Maya's voice was firm, calm, cutting through the night. "I don't want trouble. Leave now." The figures hesitated. She could feel the tension, the calculated patience in their movements. They had trained eyes, disciplined bodies. Cartel men, no doubt. She could see it in the way they shifted, waiting for her to make a mistake. She tightened her grip on the baton. One of them spoke, low and mocking. "You're out of your depth, lady." Maya's jaw set. "I left that life," she said, stepping into the light. "But I don't leave anyone behind." They blinked, surprised at her confidence. Maybe they had underestimated her. They stepped back into the shadows and melted away. But Maya knew better than to believe they were gone. They were patient, like predators. Watching. Waiting. Her phone buzzed. A message from Detective Reeves. "Officer Reyes is stable. The cartel is aware someone intervened. They will escalate." Maya exhaled slowly, letting her back rest against the kitchen counter. She couldn't run from this, not anymore. Liam's life, her daughter's safety, the looming threat of the cartel, it all demanded she act. She opened her tactical bag and began going over her medkit, laying out supplies, checking bandages, clamps, and trauma kits. Every tool was a memory of a battlefield, of nights where she had saved lives when death was certain. Her hands moved automatically, muscle memory sharp. She realized that while she had left the uniform behind, the skills never left her. She had been preparing for this night without knowing it. Her eyes drifted to the black bracelet on the counter, faint letters worn but clear. "Never leave. A fallen." It had been her mantra overseas, her guide through chaos. And now it was more than that. It was a promise she had made again tonight, to Liam, to Ella, to herself. Hours passed. Maya didn't sleep. She moved through the apartment silently, checking locks, watching the streets, listening. Every shadow, every flicker of movement could be a threat. She wasn't just a mother. She was a guardian, a soldier, a lifeline. And the night was testing her. At dawn, she stood on the balcony, rain from the earlier storm dripping from the edges, the city waking slowly below. She knew the cartel would come again. They always did. But she also knew she was ready. Not reckless, not seeking glory, just prepared. Prepared to face the darkness so that others could see the light. Somewhere across the city, someone was watching her from a distance, ice cold, calculating. They had underestimated her once. They would not make the same mistake twice. The morning sun barely pierced the thick clouds as Maya crouched in her small apartment, going over maps, blueprints, and news reports spread across the coffee table. Her eyes scanned every alley, every street, every exit route near her neighborhood. She traced the lines with her finger, visualizing escape routes, ambush points, and weak spots. Her tactical mind, long dormant, had awakened fully. Ella's laughter drifted faintly from the kitchen. Maya paused, listening. Her daughter was eating breakfast, humming a tune she had learned at school, oblivious to the shadow looming over their lives. Maya felt a pang in her chest. She had promised to keep this innocence safe, and she would keep it, no compromise. Her phone buzzed. Detective Maria Reeves. "Maya, the cartel is mobilizing faster than we thought. Officer Reyes is strong, but the intel shows multiple cells near your area. We think they might target you next." Maya's jaw tightened. "I'm ready for them," she said calmly, though inside her heart raced. She hung up and grabbed her tactical bag, checking the contents. Trauma kits, bandages, flashlights, knives, even a compact first aid kit designed for battlefield emergencies. Every item had been meticulously maintained, ready for exactly this moment. She moved to the living room, crouched low, and began checking the apartment's doors and windows. Locks were reinforced. Makeshift alarms, cans, strings, and bells hung silently, waiting for any intrusion. She had spent years in conflict zones, and even in the quietest neighborhoods, danger could strike without warning. Memories of Liam's wide eyes, bleeding but alive, flashed in her mind. She remembered the panic, the fear, and the weight of responsibility pressing on her shoulders. But she also remembered the determination, his will to survive, her will to save him. That memory burned through her fear, reminding her why she could not fail now. She moved to the bedroom, gently opening Ella's door. Her daughter looked up, sleepy-eyed. "Mom, can I come with you today?" Maya forced a smile, brushing a strand of hair from Ella's face. "Not today, sweetheart. I need to handle something important. But I'll be back before dinner, I promise." Ella nodded, trusting her mother's word completely. Maya's chest tightened. She wanted to tell her daughter everything, but she couldn't. Not yet. Innocence was precious, and she had to preserve it. Back in the living room, Maya set up a command station of her own. A laptop showing city maps, a small radio for scanning police frequencies, and notes detailing possible cartel activity. Every detail mattered. Time, location, weapon types, escape patterns. Her mind raced, connecting dots the authorities might have missed. Her phone buzzed again, a message from an unknown number. "Stop. Walk away. This doesn't have to get worse." Maya stared at the screen, her hand hovering over the phone. She typed back simply, "I don't leave anyone behind. Not now. Not ever." Then she took a deep breath, feeling the calmness settle over her. She wasn't reckless. She wasn't seeking revenge. She was preparing for what needed to be done to protect her daughter, Liam, and anyone else who could be caught in the crossfire. She was ready to step fully into the life she thought she had left behind, to meet the storm head-on. She checked her medkit one final time. Trauma shears, hemostatic gauze, tourniquets, field dressings, all in perfect order. Her fingers brushed the black bracelet on the counter. Never leave a fallen. She put it on her wrist, feeling the weight and the promise it carried. Outside, the city hummed, unaware of the war brewing in the shadows. Maya knew she had only a small window before the cartel made its move. She couldn't wait for them to strike. First, she had to be proactive, ready, and precise. Somewhere across town, men in black SUVs watched her apartment. Eyes cold, calculating, trained. They underestimated her once. Tomorrow, they would learn they had awakened a storm. The city was quiet, deceptively so, as Maya crouched behind the curtains of her living room window. Rain from the previous storm had left puddles reflecting the streetlights like scattered diamonds. Her eyes scanned the streets below, watching, waiting. Every instinct, honed over years in war zones, told her something was coming. Then she saw it. A black SUV slowing down near the intersection. Too deliberate, too calculated. Inside, shadows shifted, faces unreadable. Her heart didn't skip, it focused. She knew what they were. Cartel scouts. Observers. Testers. Maya's hands moved automatically, her mind calculating. The apartment layout, the streets. Outside, the potential escape routes for Ella. They were all running simulations in her head. She wasn't just preparing to survive. She was preparing to protect. Her phone buzzed. Liam's voice, weak but steady, came through. "Maya, Captain Stone says they might hit tonight. Be careful." "I know," she whispered. Her eyes never left the SUV. The vehicle parked across the street. Two men got out, carrying backpacks. Maya noted. Their weapons, small, concealable, tactical, likely enough to intimidate civilians, not enough for a trained combatant. She exhaled slowly, calming herself. Fear wasn't helpful. Precision was. She moved silently to the kitchen, checking the reinforced locks. Then she crouched near the window again, holding her tactical flashlight and collapsible baton, ready to create a diversion if needed. Her mind raced through every possible scenario. A break-in, a distraction, a direct confrontation. She had been here before, in deserts and jungles, in fire and blood. Now the stakes were higher. They involved her daughter and a man she had barely met but had saved with her own hands. The first scout moved closer to her building. Maya's pulse quickened, but her face remained calm. She flicked the light once, a brief reflection that caught his eye. He froze, scanning the shadows. She waited, letting the fear settle into control. Then she acted. A loud clang from the kitchen, metal hitting the tile, made both men flinch. Her voice rang out, commanding. "You want trouble? You'll get it." Stay back. They hesitated. Underestimation was their mistake. Maya moved fast, using her tactical training, shoving a chair against the door, creating noise and confusion. The men glanced at each other, uncertain. She could see the hesitation in their movements, the split second. That meant survival for her and Ella. Outside, a neighbor's dog barked, adding to the chaos. Maya seized the moment. She retreated to the hall, ready with her medkit, prepared to treat any wounds, expecting violence, but refusing to panic. Her hands moved with practiced precision, packing field dressings and preparing for the worst while maintaining control. One man reached the window, trying to peek in. Maya slammed the collapsible baton against the glass, a sharp, echoing warning. He yelped and backed away. The other looked toward the SUV, then quickly gestured. They retreated, climbing back inside the vehicle. The engine roared, tires spinning on wet asphalt. They didn't stop. They didn't chase. Not yet. Maya sank to the floor, breathing hard. Adrenaline still sharp in her veins. Ella está upstairs, sensing tension, and Maya's chest tightened. She had protected her tonight, but she knew this was only the beginning. The cartel would test her again. And next time they wouldn't hesitate. Her phone buzzed again. Detective Reeves. They know someone is watching. They'll escalate. Are you ready? Maya clenched her jaw, eyes flicking to the black bracelet on her wrist. Never leave a fallen. She had kept that promise tonight, and she would keep it again. No fear, no hesitation, only preparation. Across the city, hidden cameras, shadows, and eyes tracked her every move. The first strike had failed, but the storm was only beginning. Maya moved through the dimly lit streets like a shadow, every step measured, every sense alive. Rain from the previous night still clung to the pavement, turning streetlights into smeared reflections. Her eyes darted to every corner, every alley. She wasn't afraid. Fear was a tool, a signal. She had learned to use it overseas, and tonight it guided her. From the apartment rooftop across the street, she spotted the black SUV from yesterday. It was parked, engine idling, like a predator waiting for prey. Two figures crouched near the vehicle, scanning the neighborhood with disciplined precision. Trained eyes, calculated movements. They weren't amateurs. They had underestimated her once, and she would make sure it didn't happen again. Maya crouched low behind a dumpster, laptop open, radio scanning. She had been tracking their communications, noting times, locations, and patterns. Every movement, every minor detail was a clue. Every second mattered. The thought of Ella upstairs, safe but unaware, sharpened her focus. She had a mission now, and nothing would break her concentration. Her phone buzzed again. Detective Maria Reeves. Cartel cells are moving. Officer Reyes is watching for signs of escalation, but it looks like you're the target tonight. Are you ready? Maya didn't answer immediately. She scanned the street again, eyes narrowing at a man approaching from the alley, one of the cartel scouts. He was small-armed, unaware that Maya had seen him. She crouched lower, analyzing his gait, the rhythm of his steps. Muscle memory kicked in, recalling ambush drills, evasion tactics, combat maneuvers. She could handle this. The scout reached the SUV and gestured to the other man. A whisper of movement, a hand brushing a backpack. Maya exhaled silently. They were searching for weaknesses. Exactly what she had anticipated. She slipped into a narrow alley, keeping shadows on her side, and circled around to create a better vantage point. Her hands moved over her medkit, ensuring she could respond if things went wrong. Bandages, trauma kits, tourniquets, everything she might need in a firefight or a medical emergency. She wasn't reckless. She wasn't seeking revenge. She was calculating, prepared, and ready to protect lives. A sudden noise, a cat knocking over a trash can, made the scout flinch. Maya's pulse quickened slightly, but she remained still, invisible. He scanned the street nervously, and for a moment, she allowed herself a small, quiet smile. They were predictable. They always were. Her phone buzzed again. Maya, backup is on the way, but they won't be there in time if this escalates. You need to make your move. She knew that if she waited, someone else might get hurt. She had no choice but to act. She moved fast, silent as the wind, and slipped behind the SUV. Her flashlight was off her. Movements precise. She tapped the vehicle lightly, small deliberate noise, enough to make the men shift but not alert them fully. Then she stepped into the light, voice low, commanding, "Stop right there. You're done testing me." The scout froze, eyes wide, heart racing. He hadn't expected confrontation. The other man whipped around, reaching for a gun. Maya's hand shot to the baton in her bag, swinging it in. A controlled arc. A sharp, metallic clang echoed. The first man stumbled, the second froze. The moment hung in the air, tense and electric. "Walk away," Maya said, calm but deadly serious. "Leave before you make this worse." For a heartbeat, silence. Then the men retreated, scrambling into the SUV, tires squealing against wet asphalt. They didn't stop. They didn't look back. Maya exhaled, checking her surroundings. The adrenaline surged but didn't control her. She moved back toward her apartment, ready for anything else that might come. She had protected Ella tonight. She had learned the extent of her strength. And she knew the storm was far from over. Somewhere in the shadows, someone higher up in the cartel watched, smirking. The small strikes were only the beginning. And next time, they wouldn't come alone. Night swallowed the city, thick clouds blotting out the moon. Rain from earlier storms left the streets slick, reflective, and dangerous. Maya crouched on the fire escape, senses alive, eyes scanning every corner. She wasn't afraid. Fear was a tool, guiding her, sharpening her focus. Her phone buzzed. "Detective Reeves. Cartel cells are moving in your area. Expect a direct strike tonight. Backup is delayed." Maya exhaled slowly, sliding her tactical flashlight and baton into her hands. Trauma kits, field dressings, tourniquets. Already, every detail mattered. Ella, upstairs asleep, anchored her resolve. Then she saw them. 3 black SUVs converging at the corner, headlights dim, shadows shifting inside. Trained, armed, precise. This wasn't a test. They were coming for her. Maya slipped into the shadows, mind calculating escape routes, choke points, and potential traps. She couldn't wait. They had to be controlled. A scout stepped forward, scanning the building, gun ready. Maya crouched low on the fire. Escape's lower landing, eyes tracking, muscles tensing. Muscle memory surged. Combat drills, ambush maneuvers, evasion tactics. Years of preparation flowing through her. The scout reached the SUV, signaling his partner. Maya exhaled. They were predictable. Exactly what she had anticipated. She moved fast, silent, striking the first man's hand with her baton. The gun clattered across the asphalt. He stumbled, startled. The second froze, scanning for the threat. Maya's voice cut through the night. "Walk away. Leave now, or it won't end quietly." A mocking voice came from the shadows. "You think you can stop us? You're just one person." Maya's eyes hardened. She wasn't just anyone. She had carried a dying man through a forest, stitched him under fire, faced death, and survived. "Try me," she whispered. The men lunged, coordinated, but Maya was ready. She sidestepped the first strike, swept the second with precision, forcing both back toward the SUVs. Rain made every movement slippery, dangerous, but she was fluid, calm, calculated. From across the street, the third SUV's lights flickered. Reinforcements. Maya assessed 3 vehicles, 7 men, no backup yet. Time to act. She hurled a kin toward the first vehicle, creating confusion. Shadows masked her approach. She moved behind the nearest SUV, ready to create a distraction. Flare, smoke, anything giving her the advantage. Without risking Ella. The men cursed, scrambling. Maya struck again, swift, precise, incapacitating one scout. With a leg sweep. He crumpled silently. The others hesitated, realization dawning. This was no ordinary civilian. This was expertise, precision, strategy. Her phone buzzed again, Detective Reeves' voice urgent. Maya, we're 5 minutes out. Hold them until then. She exhaled, steadying herself. 5 minutes could save lives. Her hands hovered over her medkit, ready to respond if anyone got hurt. She wasn't reckless. She wasn't fighting for revenge. She was protecting life. Then from the shadows, a new presence emerged. Taller, broader, moving with a predator's confidence. The cartel leader had arrived. Maya's heart didn't race, she steeled herself. This was the moment her training, her courage, her promise to never leave anyone behind, would be tested. The leader smirked from the shadows, eyes cold, calculating. Maya had handled scouts before, but this was a predator. The next 5 minutes could decide everything. Rain had stopped, leaving streets slick and glowing under the harsh yellow lights. Maya crouched behind a dumpster, heart steady but senses sharp. Across the street, the cartel leader moved with predator confidence, tall, broad, eyes cold as steel. He wasn't here to intimidate, he was here to kill. Maya's hands gripped her tactical baton and flashlight. Every instinct screamed, this was the moment. Not just to survive, but to protect Ella, protect herself, and stop this threat from hurting anyone else. Her phone buzzed quietly, a text from Detective Reeves. Team is 5 minutes out. Hold him until then. You've got this. She exhaled, centering herself. Fear wasn't an option. Hadn't survived wars, carried dying men, and stitched wounds in the dark to freeze now. The leader's men flanked him, 6 in total, heavily armed, but Maya's eyes were on the prize. One misstep from them, one hesitation, and she could turn this fight. Years of special forces training, though long buried, came alive in muscle memory. She had predicted this confrontation. The leader paused, scanning the streets, smirk curling at his lips. So the little lady thinks she can play soldier, he sneered. The sound of his voice carried a dangerous calm, a predator testing prey. Maya didn't flinch. She knew predators, she had faced them before. And she knew how to survive. She took a calculated step forward. I'm not playing, she said, voice steady, deadly. I'm protecting. The first man lunged. Maya sidestepped, sweeping his legs. He fell hard on the wet asphalt. And she didn't pause. Another came at her, swinging a pipe. She caught it midair with her baton, twisting, disarming him, sending him sprawling into the shadows. Each movement was precise, controlled. Every strike calculated, never reckless. The leader's smirk vanished. He stepped forward himself, hand on his holster. Maya's eyes flicked to his position, every fiber of her body ready. She wasn't just defending, she was setting the stage. Predictable movements, calculated feints, minimal exposure. She had trained her whole life for this. Suddenly he reached for a weapon, a flash of steel in his hand. Time slowed. Maya hurled a canister from her medkit toward the ground. It sparked, smoke and light exploding in front of the leader. For a moment, confusion. The other men staggered back. Maya used the moment, closing the distance, striking the leader's shoulder with her baton. He stumbled but recovered instantly, eyes blazing with surprise and fury. Rain-soaked asphalt slickened underfoot as they circled each other, predator and prey, neither yielding. Maya's mind calculated every possible escape route, every weak angle, every way to neutralize the threat without lethal force. She wasn't here to kill. She was here to survive and protect. A scream echoed, a car horn. Backup had arrived. Police lights splashed red and blue. Across the street, the remaining cartel men froze, hesitation splitting their focus. Maya's chest tightened, not from fear, but determination. She had bought enough time. The leader glared at her, frustration mounting. You'll regret this, he spat. But the police were stepping forward now, weapons raised. Maya's eyes met the leader's, calm and unshakable. He realized the fight was over. Not because he was weak, but because she had survived, predicted, and protected. The leader and his men surrendered, hands raised. Maya exhaled, adrenaline still high, and stepped back into the shadows. She didn't celebrate. She checked the streets, ensuring no threat remained. Ella was safe. Liam was safe. And the predator had been stopped without unnecessary bloodshed. Detective Reeves arrived, hand on her shoulder. Maya, you did it. You saved lives. Tonight. Maya nodded quietly. She didn't need praise. She had kept her promise to never leave anyone behind. Across the city, hidden eyes watched the aftermath. One predator had fallen, but the storm wasn't over. Someone else was already planning, waiting for their chance. And Maya would be ready. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Maya sat on the front porch of her modest home, Ella beside her, the warm glow of the living room spilling into the yard. The city behind them hummed quietly, safe for now. The storm had passed. Maya's hands rested on her knees, still trembling slightly from the adrenaline of the night before. She had faced the cartel, confronted danger head-on, and survived. But it wasn't the fighting that weighed on her. It was the knowledge that every life saved carried a cost of fear, sweat, and sacrifice. Ella looked up at her, bright eyes filled with curiosity. "Mom, were you scared?" she asked softly. Maya smiled faintly, brushing a strand of damp hair from Ella's face. "Not really. Fear is just a signal. I felt it, sure, but I knew I had to act. I had to keep you safe." Ella's small hand found hers. "I'm glad you did. You're my hero." The words were simple, but they carried a weight that made Maya's chest tighten. She had fought countless battles. Overseas, stitched soldiers bleeding out in the dark, carried people through fire. But this, protecting her daughter, felt like the victory she had always been fighting for. Inside the house, the phone buzzed. Detective Reeves' name flashed on the screen. Maya answered quickly. "Reeves, you did it," came the voice, warm, relieved. "The cartel leader is in custody. The remaining cells are being dismantled. No one else got hurt tonight. Thanks to you." Maya exhaled, a rare moment of vulnerability slipping through. "It's not about thanks. It's about making sure people get to go home. That's all I ever wanted." The call ended, and Maya leaned back, closing her eyes for a moment. She could finally feel it, the weight of constant vigilance lifting. She had returned to the life she had almost abandoned, and yet it felt more like herself than it had in years. Every scar, every sleepless night, every decision had led to this. Her home, her daughter, her life intact. Suddenly, a knock at the door broke the silence. Maya opened it to find Liam standing there. Clean, composed, but a spark of gratitude shining in his eyes. He stepped forward. "I wanted to thank you properly. You saved my life, Maya. You didn't hesitate, even when it was the most dangerous moment of your career." Maya shook her head, emotion catching in her throat. "I just did what had to be done. You weren't leaving that street alive if I could help it." Liam's gaze softened. "You reminded me what courage looks like. Not the flashy heroics, but the quiet determination. The refusal to leave anyone behind. You're more than a hero, Maya. You're extraordinary." Ella peeked from behind her mother, curiosity and pride shining in equal measure. Maya knelt down, pulling her close. "See, kiddo? Sometimes the world's dangerous. Sometimes people make choices that save lives. But the most important thing is always coming back. Home to the people you love." The city skyline glowed in the distance as Maya, Ella, and Liam watched in silence. For the first time in years, Maya felt a profound sense of peace. The missions, the fear, the sacrifices, they hadn't been for nothing. She had fulfilled her promise. She never left anyone behind. Maya stood, looking at Ella, then at Liam. "We all have battles to fight," she said softly. "But the real victory is making sure the people we care about see another sunrise. That's what matters most." The last rays of sunlight fell across the porch. Ella's laughter rang out, light and unrestrained, and Maya felt it deep in her chest, a mix of relief, triumph, and love. She wasn't just a soldier, not just a combat medic. She was a mother, a protector, a teacher of courage. And now she was finally home. As the camera would pull back in cinematic view, the house bathed in gold, the city safe for tonight, Maya's eyes lingered on her daughter. In that quiet, powerful moment, it was clear. Heroes don't always wear medals. Sometimes they simply choose to stay, to protect, and to never leave anyone behind.